yeah, while the entire world laughs at us, our country is trying to legitimize Machado as the next installed puppet in Venezuela. Well, this is what happened earlier today.
Maria Corina Machado was greeted by supporters after meeting President Donald Trump at the White House. We count with President Trump for freedom of Venezuela, said Machado while hugging Venezuelans in D.C. There are no pictures of the opposition leader with Trump this Thursday. Images of Maria Corina Machado arriving at the White House were seen earlier. And then this.
How was your meeting with the president? Did you give him the Nobel Peace Prize?
She did not answer this question. Hours later, Machado met with U.S. senators, including Florida's Rick Scott. A day before, Trump praised Delcy Rodriguez, the interim president of Venezuela. He called her, quote, a terrific person, end quote. Machado told CBS News she's not someone to trust. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt reiterated the president's position.
They have been extremely cooperative. They have thus far met all of the demands and requests of the United States and of the president.
On January 3rd, when Nicolás Maduro was captured, Trump was asked if Machado would be in charge of Venezuela.
It would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect to be the leader.
Okay. We have to stop it there for a minute because I think it is imperative that we address the fact that they spent all this time trying to push this puppet forward. And now that they have removed Maduro, now they're in a situation where, yeah, we're totally not sold on this lady. I don't think she could do a good enough job. Talk about being stuck in no man's land or woman's land. What do you foresee unfolding with this supposed coup that is still taking place? Because I don't really know what to make of this, gentlemen. On the one hand, I think that they understand that if there is any type of military conflict in Venezuela, it is going to be extremely volatile and there's going to be a hell of a lot of bloodshed. The Venezuelan people do not want this. And now they're just trying to install a puppet, and it doesn't seem to be going as smoothly as I think they had anticipated. Your thoughts?
You want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Larry.
Sure.
This all goes back to my appreciation of what Juan Guaido represented when Trump brought him to the Congress and put him up in the visitors gallery and recognized him and more or less said he would be the future leader of Venezuela. Juan Guaido at that time, according to my Colombian contacts, which were pretty good at that moment, Juan Guaido might have had 500 people that would follow him. So that's Donald Trump's ability to judge the potential leadership in Venezuela. Fast forward after in 2016, in his first term, he turned to Pompeo, his CIA director, and said, get thee under a presidential finding, a formal presidential finding, get thee to Venezuela and overthrow the government. Pompeo said, aye, sir, and started the CIA operation, which was joined by Mossad and MI6 to overthrow the Venezuelan government. We saw the fruition of that, so to speak, when we went in and snatched Maduro. Fruition being, hey, it's not working, boss. We got to do something. Now we've got Machado, double speak from Trump, but that's nothing new, about Machado and about Rodriguez. And we don't know where we're going, but I will tell you what is instead for us, if we don't make up our minds and do something concrete soon, however illegal it may be, we're going to have a catastrophe in Venezuela because the people in charge in Venezuela are not really Rodriguez and not really Machado or anyone else like that, whose name we know fairly well now. It's the people around them that are very powerful, that are getting their money essentially from the oil and gold revenues in the country, and who do not want, this is typical Caudillo behavior in South America, they do not want that to stop. So if they can't come to some reasonable accommodation with Trump, let him steal some of the oil, maybe steal some of the gold, whatever, they're going to fight him tooth and nail on the ground in Venezuela if he is bold enough and stupid enough to put troops in there. So that's where we are now.
Well, let me just say this. First of all, what gives us the right to remove any leader from their country? That's how I'll start out. Now, with that said, I've seen this playbook. I always tell you, you've heard me say it before, and I'll repeat it again. I can give you assumptions, opinions, and facts. Some of the things we may say may be assumptions and opinions, but let me give you a fact. I've seen this playbook before. Think about this. Iraq, WMD, Syria, chemical weapons, Iran, nuclear weapon, Venezuela, drugs. How much have you heard about drugs in the last week or so? How much have you heard about it? Now, Trump, he can care less who's in charge. We've already seen that. He can care less who's in charge. You remove the current president, and then you don't care from there because of the fact you think you can control everything. Now, all Trump cares about is oil, not who should be in charge, not a democratic process. I own the oil. I am the acting president of Venezuela. There's my answer right there. And oh, by the way, it's amazing to me what people will do just for power. So I will ask her, are you telling us you do not deserve the Nobel Peace Prize, that you would give it away? Do you deserve it? You would give it away just for power. That's mind-boggling to me.
Well,
or she realizes that the only reason she won it was because basically of exactly what's going on right now, right? Like she was put in that position to get that. I don't think it was like really the powers that be in the world all got together and thought, yes, that is really the person in the globe who should get the Nobel Peace Prize. So I don't know. It was almost felt like a roundabout way of giving it to Trump. But in the first place, but then of course they made it clear it's non-transferable. I didn't think it was transferable. That's just so stupid.
Yeah.
Of course it's
no. She's just what I'm saying. She's feeding his ego, and shame on him. That tells you what type of person he is to accept it. The latest I saw before coming on, he actually accepted it too.
Well, I'm the most deserving person of that award.
The Nobel Committee deserves what they're getting right now.
Absolutely. Well, it was a mockery to begin with. Now they're really just making it so that it's a completely irrelevant prize.
Let me add one thing to what Dennis was saying, too, that is a dimension of it that the papers, especially the mainstream media, they don't get it. Trump is also, and the people around Trump, people like Miller and Vice President and Vaught and others are very concerned about what's happening in South America with regard to China, because China has probably taken over about 60% of the major country economies, the trade with them in South America. If you're familiar with the port they just built on the Pacific coast in Peru, that port is probably going to be, if it isn't already, the most fabulous port in the world. And it's going to negate really the Panama Canal, because ships are going to go there instead of go through the Panama Canal, especially the bigger ones now. They can't even pass through the canal. And you can't really do anything about that with the canal because the topography, everything, the geology won't allow you to build it any bigger. Water and so forth from Gatun Lake and other things that impact it. So that is a real national security issue with regard to South America. But are we tackling it in the proper way? We're essentially saying, hey, if you're going to deal with China, we're going to really break your back. Look at what we just did to Lula in Brazil, for example. Lula had joined the BRICS movement very, very strongly to de-dollarize. And they were making progress in terms of commodity exchanges all over the world. They were not using the dollar. They were using the real. They were using the renminbi. They were using the ruble. He backed out completely because we threatened him. He's not even pushing it anymore. He's not joining the other lesser powerful BRIC members to do that. And of course, China doesn't want to do it because China's got a win-win situation going for it. It doesn't want its renminbi to be the world reserve currency. It sees what happened to the pound sterling, the Dutch guilder, and the empires that were built around those currencies. It doesn't want that pain and that problem. So they're not going to weigh in. So we've probably stopped that. And that was probably one of the most effective ways of warning to deter this Hobbesian empire that we have become, to get it out of the business of dictating to everybody in the world because they had to have the dollar in order to do business. So that's another dimension of this that people are missing. It's a very important dimension to it. I'm not saying that we're right in doing this. I'm just saying it has some national security implications, at least, which nothing else really does.
And Colonel, to piggyback on your point, the one thing I think a lot of people miss about China is that they do not engage militarily unless they're attacked. And there's a reason for that, because they understand that they are in a position to become the next global hegemony in the next decade. And they can do that by not coming off as a conqueror, a military invader, if you will. If they don't do that, then all nations are going to want to do business with them. So when everyone's like, well, China's going to, fight back against Venezuela, listen, in the short run, it's going to be terrible for Venezuela, but in the long run, it is going to be nightmarish for the United States for how we have been dog-walked by the Zio state, as well as what we've been doing militarily, which is a sign of collapsing empire as well, which is overexpansions, tale as old as time. And in case anybody was wondering whether or not there is any opposition to foreign policy, we'll just say foreign policy in general in the United States, the two major parties are unified when it comes to foreign policy. And need I say more when we unfortunately have to show this clip, but it's a reflection of the Democratic establishment as a whole. And that, of course, is, well, you know who.
That he's going to take over the country, and to be dismissive of Corina Machado and actually say that she doesn't have the support of Venezuelans in the country. I mean, that's just the furthest thing from the truth.
This was, yeah.
That woman needs to go bury her head somewhere. I've seen enough of her over the last 5 or 10 years.
Well, the good news is, gentlemen, believe it or not, when Governor DeSantis does the redistricting in a few months, it is an inside rumor as of this moment that this person's district is on the chopping block. There's only a couple, but it happens to be hers. And
they're sick of her too. That means that even the Republicans in Tallahassee that have been protecting her seat, they're sick of her too.
That's what I've heard also. And I've also heard that one of the things driving Trump right now with regard to Machado and with regard to Florida and the Venezuelans and Cubans and others in Florida is not just the political vote, but also the fact that he's competing with DeSantis and he wants to beat DeSantis. And he doesn't want DeSantis being the vice president, for example, or even the president. So this is political in Florida, as well as being stupid with regard to these expats.
I definitely agree. But, this is the thing that's just so perplexing. And again, her political instincts are an absolute nightmare, but it's only because she rules with an iron fist and is protected by Netanyahu in the Zio state that she is able to sit in Congress as long as she has. That's kind of like a known thing at this point. The fact that the hill that she wants to die on with Venezuela is not only supporting the invasion and the removal of Maduro, but that the support for Machado, which is basically non-existent. No one likes this person, and yet she's up there saying you're totally lying if you think people don't like Machado. Like, are you crazy? This would have been a layup if she was even even tangibly viable in any way, and clearly she's not. Which is why Trump is now reduced to having to make some type of a deal with Delcy Rodriguez. So the fact that she is saying this is all right. I'll finish out what she has to say, and then I'll take her off the screen.
The furthest thing from the truth. She has overwhelming support there. And if this doesn't appear to have been thought through in terms of the day after. And if the result is Maduro's crony, Delcy Rodriguez, just doing Trump's bidding, and Venezuela does not end up transitioning to a democratically elected government, then, we've violated every principle of our Constitution and I think laws in our country.
Can we talk about for a second the rich irony of Debbie Wasserman Schultz talking about fair elections?
Yeah.
And I would also remind people, and I know we've talked about it here before, but Venezuela's elections are actually considered fairer than ours. So she is the last person that should be talking about election integrity.
And she's been fed her talking points by Bibi.
Oh, yeah.
She's got them. She's reading right off of them. She might as well have a teleprompter.
Let me just say this, how this crossover into both parties with this, as I stated before, what gives us the right to do regime change in any country. And it crossed over into both parties.